Hello everyone, welcome to the Commexis Cast, all of the news you need to know from our inbox to yours. I'm Matthew McGordy, the videographer and podcaster here at Commexis, and today I am joined by one of the managing partners here at Commexis, Maria Antonelli.
Good morning.
Good morning, Maria. So today we are talking about some experiential marketing and how that plays in general throughout the entire buyer's journey, but in particular, as today is Friday, we are talking about the advocacy portion of the buyer's journey. So in the advocacy portion of the buyer's journey, your end user or your client or your potential customer has gone through all of the steps of the buyer's journey so far. So it's awareness, consideration, purchase, retention, and now we are at advocacy. And this experiential marketing in general typically touches on all forms of the buyer's journey, as I mentioned, and as we will get into, this event has also done that. But specifically, advocacy is about having your customers, give you reviews. As Len has put it before, you don't just want a customer and a returning customer, you want a screaming fan, so to say. Somebody who will go and write a review, tell their friends about you, tell their coworkers, other clients, refer you, and stuff like that. So there's a couple different ways that you can build this, and one of the ways that we are going to be talking about today is with experiential marketing. So HBO and Bumble, so for those of you who don't know, Bumble is a dating app turned like lifestyle brand, sort of? Is that how? Sort of, yeah. And they teamed up to basically create a nice little first date-esque experience in a $30 million New York apartment, which was a lot. So what they did was they allowed some users who used the app to get an invite to the experience. Others were able to just appear. The apartment was near Washington Square Park in New York. They divided attendees into 6 different movies based on a personality quiz. So some of them that they showed was Girls Trip, Back to the Future, It. There were 65 guests each night, and the wait list was up to about 1,200 people per night. It is. So before we get too started on the specifics of some of this, what do you think about experiential marketing in general, Maria?
So, it's really nothing new. If we think back to some of the pre-digital social era, there were the Budweiser Clydesdales that went town to town into different community events. There was the famous Pepsi Challenge. There was the Oscar Mayer, for those of you, I won't date myself, the Oscar Mayer hot dog that drove around town to town. So experiential isn't anything new. I think what's new is the digitalization of it and the shareability. No longer, the Pepsi Challenge resulted in quite a additional investment in media broadcast buys to make people aware that it was even happening, and then capturing those results and broadcasting them out. Now the digitalization, you can bring, virtual reality and things into the experience and then have the benefit of, free socialization of the experience. So what do I think of it? I think that it's incredible. I think that it requires, obviously, budget and investment like anything else along the buyer's journey. But if a brand has it and it makes sense, then absolutely it's an important part of the matrix.
Mm-hmm. You touched on a really great point about the expansion of experiential marketing, the digitization rather. Expansion and digitization of experiential marketing. And one of the things that HBO and Bumble did was they worked with Giant Spoon to basically event plan and social media coordinate this entire event. So some of that involved a bathtub full of rubber ducks and candy in yellow so that Bumble's colors were presented, so that people could take nice pictures and things like that. There's a great quote from Mark Simmons, who's the co-founder of Giant Spoon. He said that both brands need people to sign up for their services and brand awareness and brand love, so they're trying to make a balance of that, but also they weren't exactly tracking return on investment. They don't track or guarantee things like that, given the type of event that is. So Maria, what do you think about that?
I think that would make for an interesting client call.
Okay.
That's what I think. Look, we live in a world where everything needs to be metriced and value needs to be proven. So there are lots of ways that agencies or that clients and agencies can derive value for clients from experiential marketing. At my core, I'm a brand planner. So I love to simply sit back and watch things unfold. I love to watch smiles on people's faces and how they're reacting, the behaviors that are being displayed during the experiential experience. I think that feeds the brand machine, and it's great learning there. So that's certainly value. Every experiential program that I can think of has some sort of social media component. It's a requirement to do it. So just there, the shareability of the experience, I think the capturing of opinions and all of that leads to positive impressions for the brand. I mean, obviously you can do metrics such as pre and post experience. You can do fan reviews of what did they think of the experience. So while I think that it's great to have the attitude of it's all about the experience and anything on top of that is gravy, I don't really subscribe to that. I think you better prove value.
Yeah, I think that is a great point. And Brett Hyman, who's a guest writer for Entrepreneur, he did a great piece on experiential marketing. It'll be in the blog description, as well as the Carrie Flynn Digiday piece that originally reported on the Bumble HBO event. You can find that there as well. And one of the things that he points out is when you're trying to prove ROI or you're trying to prove any sort of social engagement that you're getting from these, you kind of need to ask very specific questions, because at the end of the day, the return on investment for something like a date night where only 65 people got in per night, but 1,200 people were waiting at the door is a little bit harder to sort of calculate and show. So one of his examples was that, at the end of, one of the things you might want to ask is, at the end of the journey, what do you want to leave the consumers with? So when I think of the Bumble event, you're leaving people with the satisfaction of something that's really cool and unique and a nice memory, and ideally, for both Bumble and HBO, some warmness to that brand on two aspects. One, because it's a very memorable night, but also you're likely bringing a first date there. So if the relationship blossoms from that, then you have a very, I would say, memorable, unique first date experience.
Right. And the potential for additional experiential as you follow couples, but that's way down the road, right? So I think that experiential can be a win-win across, obviously for the brand. Experiential done well and in a shareable format is definitely a win for the brand. Like I mentioned, for the brand planners, I think that it's a win just in terms of pure observation. And then I think it's a win for the brand community. Obviously those 1,600 people, one could look at it, will they be disgruntled that they missed out on the opportunity? But it's the whole fear of missing out that makes the thing so compelling. I generally think that people are drawn to experiential opportunities with the brand that they love or the brand that they may not be that familiar with. People are drawn to, I guess, the whole community of the things they love. They're obviously drawn to free stuff.
Certainly.
The opportunity to take one home or taste something or learn about something. We're very curious creatures and we're very value-driven creatures. So, like I said, I think that experiential is a really, particularly as we move more and more digital, right? I think that having the opportunity to physically participate with a brand is important, and it's nothing new. I think the newness comes from the shareability of it. I think to like the European auto manufacturers who for years and years have invited the luxury brands, Audi, Volvo, they invite people who are buying those vehicles to come abroad, pick up their vehicle before it's shipped to the US and take, a European road tour. And that was wonderful for the community and feeling part of the community. It's part of that purchase decision and feeling really good about it. But now they follow them on their road rallies, and the owners are sharing it out. And I mean, what more could a brand look for and want to experience? But again, it's an investment, and for small brands, it's not off the table. You could just have, photo booths and things like that. I mean, in many cases, the brand doesn't even have to necessarily be a part of the experience, just the essence of the brand needs to, so it's all by association and alignment. I don't think it's out of reach for any brand. I think you just have to be very creative about what you're doing and make the investment. And like anything in marketing, it's a test, right? So if it launches, great, refine, improve, move on.
Yeah. And I think you made a really great point when we were talking about, and as we've discussed so far throughout the entire show, about shareability, and that really is the direct way that we are tying this into the buyer's journey when we talk about advocacy, because while this hits every step, awareness, it brings awareness of the two brands to anyone who's unfamiliar with them, consideration, you're thinking about these brands, you're to some extent experiencing the movies that HBO in particular might offer, but also you're kind of getting a sense of what Bumble is if you don't use it. Purchase, kind of, you're having the nice experience that might lead to you subscribing or using the app, etc. And then with retention, if anybody's on the edge, maybe they saw something, heard something, they were there, and then that will get them coming back. But one of the cool things I think about experiential marketing when we're talking about advocacy is because of its, in this case, grandeur and its shareability, you can turn people who maybe haven't gone through your entire buyer's journey into advocates just by them taking a fun picture or experiencing the event and telling them to a friend. I mean, HBO is one of the most popular streaming channels. I think they have 147 million subscribers, which is actually more than Netflix, right? So they're certainly not hurting in that regard, but it never hurts to get more users, retain current users or former users back into the buyer's journey. So just something I was thinking about how, the advocacy step is meant for people who really love your brand and use your product, your service, in this case, your subscription or your app. But you can turn people who aren't in that funnel yet into advocates for you.
Absolutely. And conversion of preference, just because of that experience, they'll just like you more, or maybe they've never had the opportunity to experience. So I think conversion is a big part. It really does touch every part of the journey, even before the journey begins. Like I said, in the brand planning stage, it influences product development and everything, packaging, I mean, all of it, and then it follows through. And I think that, seeking out smart partnerships that have alignment of audience is another huge way to build not just audience, but sales. I would encourage anyone to be looking out proactively for brands that may not be doing experiential, that might be open to doing it with you, as long as there's no conflict or erosion of their sales in doing so. But it was a really smart partnership between the two for this. Absolutely.
So now I have two questions before we close the show. The first, Maria, is would you be one of the 1,200 people waiting to get into that $30 million program?
I'm not sure my husband would really like that, but I participated in many experiential things. You think about it, it happens everywhere. I walk through the mall and I'm overtaken by the perfume people and who pull me in. So, brands are living, breathing things, and they need to be among their audiences or pull in new audiences. So. Would I be at the Bumble event? Not without a hat and some big, large sunglasses, but I personally love experiential opportunities with brands. Everything from product, walk in any sort of grocer or wholesale club on a Saturday, and I'm right there taking the free samples like everyone else.
Absolutely.
All the way through lounge experiences that I've seen in retail malls. Sure.
Okay. The second question is, you mentioned the Oscar Mayer Wiener Mobile. When are we getting a Commexis Mobile?
I really regret mentioning that. It dates me, I suppose.
Doesn't date you that much. I remember that.
But I don't know, Matt. It could be coming soon. I'm gonna paint my Prius orange, and we're gonna hit the road.
Are we gonna attach a big old
Commexis
X swoosh on top of it?
Yes, we're gonna hit the road.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Maria, for joining me for today's Commexis Cast. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you'd like to listen to more of us, you can check us out on the Apple iTunes Podcast Store, the Google Play Music Store, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and TuneIn. And if you'd like to watch us, you can watch us in full on YouTube and get nice little snippets in your social media feed by following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.